Among goofy all graphics, some games that are a little weird, and simply being one of the most nostalgic periods of time on this timeline, it was also one of the biggest decades for the video game industry. All the legends and franchises we know today were founded back in the 2000s, roughly 2000 to 2010 or so. That's where gaming really took its first major steps, but that doesn't mean that underneath the legends we still love today aren't a couple amazing games that are just underrated. Well, I may have compiled a list of 10 games that are just super underrated. Or I may not have. I could be ranting about Bleach for the next 10 or so minutes. You just don't know. As tempting as that is, let's jump into our 10 most underrated 2000s games. Beyond Good and Evil has you playing as Jade, a photojournalist whose search for the truth in her world of lies provides a compelling story that leaves you questioning the media and the authorities. Alongside her journey is Payjay, a scary pigman, or ham, I don't know if the script says that, who's Jade's adoptive uncle, and you thought your uncle was weird. He's an inventor and really good with tech. Your pigman uncle isn't the only sidekick on your quest. Double H, an operative under the IRIS, a company that Payjay is the leader of, joins the team. He brings a built and dangerous physique and an extensive military training to the table. Now, while I made a little fun of the characters, they do all have meaningful backstories and character arcs that keep you playing, engaged, and invested from the beginning on. While Beyond Good and Evil uses many different playstyles like stealth and puzzle solving, it's the photo-taking mechanic that sets this game apart from pretty much everything else. Tying heavily from the concept of the game, a photojournalist who's uncovering the secrets of her world, you'll also be encouraged throughout the game to take photos and document your journey yourself. It's actually really awesome, but due to poor marketing on Ubisoft's part, the game never really saw the light of day. It was released right alongside other much bigger games like The Prince of Persia, Sand of Time, and so on. So it's just underrated. Now, Psychonauts is actually a really interesting game. If you don't know the plot, then get ready for me to blow your mind. Despite the cute seeming character on the cover and general vibe of the game, it's about mental health illnesses and personal trauma. You'll be playing through multiple different levels that all reflect and revolve around that person's struggle. As you would imagine, this concept would be a challenge for most companies and groups out there, but Double Fine Production nails it. Though it would seem like this would be a depressing or sad game, it will, once again, flip your expectations with the characters, personalities, humor, and wit. And I'm so sorry, but I have to do it one more time to you. This game is more than just a platformer. With the incorporation of special and unique abilities like time control and levitation, traversing each level is an experience on its own. Wrapped up all into one nice burrito or something, this game just isn't your average game at all, in any way. Do not be surprised when Psychonauts flips your expectations on your head. Sadly, due to some struggles in development and the small size of Double Fine Productions at the time, and the general feel of the game, it didn't ever really get a chance to shine. It only really appealed to a very small audience. Okay, now this one is really exciting. Okami is a game that may look a little silly or even for younger audiences on the surface, but in reality, this game is amazing. You'll be playing as the Shinto sun goddess Amaterasu, who took the form of a white wolf to save the land from darkness. Sounds nice. The game and story utilize dozens of cultural, folklore, and mythological ideas and concepts to create a memorable world and journey and experience, all of it. The visual style of Okami is stunning, drawing heavily, no pun intended, from sumie, or ink wash paintings. You're left with an absolutely unforgettable experience. Now, it doesn't end there. There's a reason for the very specific and creative art style, and that would be the celestial brush feature. A game mechanic where you get to literally paint things into existence. Are you in a pinch and you need to cross a bridge that just, I don't know, might not exist? Well, just paint one up, dude. Boom, now you have a bridge. Are you finally starting to see what I'm saying about the 2000s games being just amazing? The general concept of the game being good versus evil, light versus darkness, and rebirth are explored through the game with the gameplay and narrative. What? The result is a game that you won't forget. Boom. Sadly though, it was released on PS2 at the time that everyone was moving to the next gen consoles, and again, it just was released right next to much bigger games. So what do you think so far? I promise I've got some more amazing games coming up soon, but have you played any of these so far? Let me know in the comments. I'm trying to build a community here, guys, and it starts with comments. Let's keep going. To be 100% clear, Grim Fandango is a 1998 game, but it was remastered in 2000, so it counts. I make the rules around here, Sonny. At a glance, you might already be intrigued, but as we get deeper, you'll be left amazed. Whoa. Set in the land of the dead, Grim Fandango perfectly combines the film noir with the Mexican Day of the Dead, another game with a very unique visual style. On top of that, the complexity of the puzzles are fantastic. You're not getting through this game without using 100% of your brain power, and I mean 100%. Some puzzles might need items that you would never consider an option, so yes, it's big brain time. Keep your eyes open. You'll be playing as Manny Calavera, a Grim Reaper who, over the course of the game, changes into a hero. It gives the perfect redemption story and shows off amazing character development. And again, I just have to praise the looks of the game. I know it might be a little outdated, but it's just stunning. It perfectly captures the feel of a Day of the Dead, Mexican, film noir world. Well done. Grim Fandango is underrated because though it was remastered in 2000, it was still a point-and-click 1998 game. Released in a time where Halo was defining the next step for video games going forward, it felt outdated to many players. And some of the puzzles were just too much for casual players, and so it's underrated. Unlike the majority of the games on this list, this game doesn't care about dialogue at all. Well, not in the way you're thinking at least. Or I was, but whatever. Instead of the characters speaking or explaining their thoughts, Ico cleverly uses landscapes to communicate straight to the heart of the player. Another advantage to this method is just how immersive the game is. You're pretty much instantly sucked into the world and you're invested. As you interact with it, as you see it, as you discover more, you only get more invested. Now what if I told you that in an absolutely genius move, the desolate, barren, and almost depressing world you traverse, as there's really not a lot of colors or anything, only emphasizes the connection and bond your character, Ico, has with Yorda. As you navigate through this world, you'll have to keep her safe while solving puzzles, engaging in magnificent combat, and so on. It's a game that perfectly intertwines its setting with its plot. I think it's a fantastic move. The reason this game is underrated or a cult classic now is based in the fact that it only appeals to a very specific audience, and that's pretty much it. Eternal Darkness or Sanity's Requiem is an interesting one. Oh I can't speak. What is going on, guys? So imagine an early horror game, but they, of course, added something really awesome to the game that took Eternal Darkness from an okay game to a, wow, I won't forget this. As you progress through the game, you'll encounter things that leave your character stunned, to say the least. You'll have a sanity meter that drops as your character witnesses things. As this meter drops lower and lower, your visual and audio will change and distort as well, so it really has a creative way of depicting insanity. On top of this challenge are the puzzles and combat systems, both of which will be requiring you to use your brain. So play this with the kids who are asleep so you can focus. Or maybe because it's also a horror game too? I don't know. But in the end, you're left with a game that cleverly uses things your character sees as a way of bringing you down into the insanity as well. Okay, maybe a little dark, but hey. The sad part to this story is that the few people who played this game, because it was exclusively available on the GameCube in the GameCube's last days, were more confused or frustrated about the insanity meter than intrigued. Sad. As time has gone by, we've seen more and more of this style game pop up, but back in the day, they weren't as common as they are now. Nevertheless, Capcom's Valkyria Chronicles is a real-time strategy RPG heavily centered off of the military. And similar to Okami, it aims for an almost watercolor look to the game, and they did this with the canvas shader technique. Very nice. Alongside the heavy military and strategy influences are the natural RPG aspects, like characters, all with their own personalities and needs, character arcs, you get the idea. Capcom uses this very well by adding in the struggle that these characters have in themselves, the internal conflict from the fighting and war. It dives into the ideas like sacrifice, loyalty, and the meaning of human life. And all of this wouldn't have worked without the perfect blend between RPG and real-time strategy. So, very well done. At the time of its release though, this type of game just wasn't as popular as it is today. Combine this with Sega's lack of advertisement and this game just flew under the radar. Yes, I did it. Yes, I said Shenmue. and it's about to get worse. Though I just need to make a full-length video off of this game alone, I'm going to attempt at only spending a fraction of the time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the world of Shenmue is built with deep and very complex relationships and connections between characters, but also then filled in with dozens upon dozens of, well, slightly anger-inducing side quests. I will not lie to you guys, some of these little freaking mini games make me want to rip my eyes out, starting with this is just how the game creates filler throughout the world. This grandma needs help finding something, or this farmer needs help rallying the chickens in the worst way possible, and so on. It does serve a point as it adds to the life of the world. Around every corner is an NPC who needs help or whatever, but though we might get carried away with that, there is still a rich and gripping story underneath. As Ryo sets out for vengeance, he slowly discovers more about his family's secrets. It's a good game. It's a good series. It's just hard to do it justice in such a short amount of time. Released on the Dreamcast at a time when the Dreamcast was fading out wasn't the best idea for the game, and at the time the simpler, slower slice of life style didn't have the same weight as it has now. I think it's the most S's I've ever said in a sentence. What the heck? No One Lives Forever 2, A Spy in Harm's Way, is a spy game that knows it's a spy game, if that makes sense. Building off of a number of spy movie tropes from the 60s, playing this game is an enjoyable experience. You'll be playing as Kate Archer, a top spy whose role in this almost comical and humorous game is quite the opposite of its inspiration, as many of the movies this game pulls from had male protagonists. Nevertheless, she's kicking the bad guys' butts. You actually have a lot of freedom in this game. If you've got a mission, it's up to you whether you want to sneak up behind the enemies or barge right in. So on top of the smiles you'll be getting from the obvious homages to our favorite spy movies, you'll be enjoying the combat in any way you like. But due to legal issues over the rights of the franchise, it wasn't able to be advertised after its launch. Not a good move. And the heavily based 1960s feel appealed to a very niche audience at the time. Okay, I feel like we all know this game. Mirror's Edge has been on the Microsoft Store for years. It's been on our Xbox home screens more times than we can count, and so on. We all know this game. Put super simply, this is a game about parkour. You're challenged with every level to think outside the box and creatively, and it all happens in a snap of a finger, as you'll have to think on the fly too. Now, for those of you who didn't know what this game is, or, have been seeing it for years now, this is probably a shock to you. It was a shock for me a couple years back when I found out too. Wait, this is a parkour game? Yeah, it is. The very fluid mechanics of the game combined with the first person's perspective only adds to the immersive feel of the game, and the game just wouldn't work if it wasn't fluid and smooth to play through. Beneath all of this though is a game and a plot that addresses freedom, oppression, surveillance, all wrapped up into a dystopian future. It actually sounds really nice. Sadly, people expected more combat from the game, and when they were left disappointed, they simply moved on to other much bigger games being released at the same time, like Fallout 3 and Gears of War 2. And not to mention that the parkour required a steeper learning curve than casual players were expecting, and so it's an underrated gem. Well, what do you think? The sad part is that all of these games are really good. They just suffered from something simple that affected the entire game and its future. But have you played any of these games? If so, what are your thoughts on them? And would you be willing to play any of the others? And guys, please let me know what you think about this type of video. I'm not used to making these, guys, but they're really fun. What do you think though? I want to talk with you guys down below in the comments. I'm trying to build a community, so comment it up. I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and remember, life is short. Play great games. Now, I don't know if you've ever left a turkey in the oven and woke up the next morning at the pearly gates, but we all know the feeling of, oh, I remember that thing that I forgot. Now, has there ever been a game that you were just so excited for, but, time goes by and you forget about it? But then, out of the blue, you remember it and you get excited all over again? So you might do a little bit of digging to,